What you see before you now is a regular flashlight beam. This is what 99% of the flashlights on the market look like. It is a reflector type light. It is designed with a relatively narrow cone of light. And while that may be good for seeing in a long distance, when it comes to seeing foreground objects, it really shows itself to be lacking. Many people know of my long-standing love for throwing flashlights. I've spent, 6 years now developing the best throwing flashlights in the world. But when it came to me turning my attention to a flooding type light, I found the market to really be lacking. So what I did is I examined what would you want in the perfect floodlight. Well, I'm happy to say I think I've been able to achieve it. What I've done is use a new technology. I say relatively new. It's a holographic film, light shaping film. Well, why is this really something that you would want? Well, as you can see before you, this is a normal flashlight beam. Now we're going to take a look at the Captor, and you will see a striking difference. So there you have it, the Captor. Regular flashlight, Captor. As you can see, there really is no competition between a regular flashlight beam and what the Captor has to offer. Well, one of the things that makes this light so special is not simply the massive output as far as bulk light is concerned. While it is very, very powerful, this light is about far more than just simple brute strength. What I wanted to do was design a light that used light efficiently. And so the holographic film allows me to stretch the light into a band. What this does is allow the Captor to have what I call a peripheral beam. To my knowledge, this is the first flashlight in the world to offer this, and as I move the flashlight around, you'll see just how much width the beam has, how much it has in the peripheral view. When you think about it, our eyes were not designed to see a simple cone of light. Our eyes were designed to be able to see in the peripheral as well. Really a striking difference, is it not? This really has a tremendous impact on your ability to pick up your environment, to be able to tell what's going on in your environment very, very quickly. So we have output, high output. We have the fact that it's using a very, very wide beam, but it's more than simply that. This light has been designed to have high CRI. So what I've done is mix in a high CRI Cree XML2 along with two cool white XML2s. The reason I did this was because the high CRI LED, the phosphor blend that they use, has a deeper red component to it that cool white LEDs just do not have. And you can see the difference, hopefully on camera, in the deeper reds of the wood chips versus the other flashlight. So here's the other flashlight that I was showing you before. Now this one is actually a neutral flashlight. It's a neutral white color, which actually is a little bit warmer than most flashlights on the market. Most flashlights are a cool white, which tends towards a blue. It's kind of like ghostly color. I prefer a neutral color. Well, the Captor actually takes it up one notch by adding a little bit more deep reds. And the way I've blended it together, you still get a relatively high Kelvin or high temp color, but with the added red. It really is beautiful, beautiful light. So there's that high CRI aspect, which allows you to be able to quickly ascertain what objects you're looking at. It gives you better sense of depth perception. You can identify objects far more readily, and it just looks beautiful. Well, there is yet even more when it comes to this light that I find absolutely fascinating, and that is to do with its ability to wrap around objects. So because it's a diffuse type light, it has a couple benefits or side effects that really come to you. I find just it's hard to explain and probably hard to pick up on the camera, but the diffuse type light that you get from this has far less glare than, say, another type of light like a mule. So a kind of light that has no form of collimation. It's just an LED by itself, and that gives you the same kind of beam spread. So let me show you here. This is a flashlight with just a bare LED. It's a mule. It allows you to have that same beam spread as the Captor, but the problem is very hard cast shadows. So the problem with this is these hard cast shadows are very, very distracting to the human brain. So your brain is trying to process this information. As you're walking through a path, these shadows are being cast by the plants, rocks, whatever it may be, and it's casting these shadows, and they kind of dance around. It really is an issue. I've spent a lot of time examining what would make the perfect flutter, and I have found that a bare LED really doesn't cut it. This is a problem. So take that and compare it with the Captor. So notice there is still somewhat of a cast shadow, but they aren't a hard line shadow, and your brain doesn't notice as much the dancing effects of that shadow. I can't stress enough what a difference this makes in the real world. So there's that effect as far as it not distracting the brain. The brain isn't having to process that distracting information, because your brain is kind of freaked out a little bit by seeing that, and so it has to figure out, especially if you're in an environment where you're worried about being attacked or there's wild animals, your brain is constantly having to process that, and you're worried. Well, this kind of helps take that worry away. One of the other benefits to this wraparound effect is seen when you're working in tight spaces like in an engine bay, and you've got, let's say, little wires or vacuum lines that run across. Well, as you can see here, my finger really doesn't block the light. The light wraps around it. So when you're working in an engine bay, you'll find that you can see more. There's not cast shadows like you would have with just a bare LED flashlight. You can see there's a tremendous difference there. And I found this to be the case too, as you're walking down a path and you've got rocks or whatnot, grass. This light, the light from the Captor, can wrap around it. So all in all, the Captor, I think, is an absolutely revolutionary product. To my knowledge, there has never been anything quite like this. Nothing that has ever had the power, the high CRI, the ability to wrap around objects, the lack of glare, which actually I haven't even really talked about in this video. It's hard to explain in a video like this, but a point source type of light, like the other one I was showing you, when it shines off the surface of things, has a very, very, well, it has a glare to it. even on a very, very small level, you'll get reflections back from objects that have little tiny pinpoints of light that are very, very intense. This diffuse light actually gives a much softer look on the things that you're looking at, and you just have to see it to believe it. The light from this light is like no other that I know of, in beauty, in power, in its ability to capture so much of your environment in such a quick moment.